Hi, I'm Victoria Pendleton, and these are my questions and ancestors.
We have a story of such extraordinary resilience in your family history. I think you will never look at your Midlands ancestors in the same way again.
Wow, that is a statement. That's a really wonderful strength of character, isn't it?
There's something beautiful about that.
But maybe that was less painful than the alternative.
I think it's fascinating. There's so much to learn about how we kind of come to be in terms of our traits and personalities.
Hello, I'm Alex Jones and this is Questions and Ancestors, brought to you by Ancestry. Welcome to our genealogical journey. Each week we sit down with a guest and help to answer their burning questions about their family trees and discover if the stories passed down between generations are actually true. But it's not all about the past. We'll also find out how our discoveries alter how they see themselves, their choices and the legacy they leave for future generations. Now, joining me to pull back the curtain on our guest's family line is Ancestry senior genetic genealogist Laura House, giving an inside peek into the research process and interpreting DNA analysis. So, here to find out about her very extended family is one of the most successful female cyclists of all time. She finished her career with 34 World Championship medals. In a one-on-one sprint, there were very few people who could keep up. The pinnacle of her career came at the Olympic Games. She won gold in the individual sprint at Beijing 2008, a victory that confirmed her status as Britain's top female sprinter and carried enormous expectation into the London 2012 Olympics, where she added another Olympic title, winning the keirin and claiming silver in the individual sprint. She retired from cycling shortly after, but rather than reflecting on a hugely successful career, she decided to explore a long-standing interest in horse racing by training and competing as an amateur jockey. Now she's sharing some of her resilience secrets in her brand new book, out now, called The Fear Opportunity. It is, of course, the brilliant, the inspiring Victoria Pendleton. Victoria, welcome. It's lovely to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure. Now, the thing with you, of course, you're so used to travelling at great speed forward, and now we're taking you right back in history. How are you feeling about that?
I'm really excited about it. I've always had an interest in sort of ancestry. And my dad used to have a family tree. I don't know where it's hidden away now, but I always found it fascinating.
So is your dad the unofficial historian in your family?
Sort of, loosely, yeah, I'd say.
Loosely?
Yeah.
Do you know how far back he's traced?
Well, he thought he got back to 1600 and something, but
Wow.
Obviously it's difficult, and he did it so long ago when I was still young, so I don't know how the access to records would have changed like dramatically between then and now.
Yeah.
So.
Do you want to tell me then, first of all, what you do know? And are there any myths? You know, everybody's got those family sort of myths. We think that this might have happened to a great uncle, but did it really? What are yours?
Well, no, not really official myths. We do always joke with a name like Pendleton that we may be descendant from the witches of Pendlemore, which I quite like. And yeah, we joke about that, but not really anything significantly within the tree. We just joke about the name.
Okay. Is there any side of the family in particular that you would like to learn more about?
Well, I think either would be very interesting, to be honest. I always assume that most of my characteristics come from the Pendleton side of things because my dad was very driven and focused. But then I've got a feeling that my mum's side was probably where my physical sort of ability came from. Maybe your strengths and characteristics more come from that side, but I don't know.
Was your mum a sportswoman at all?
She gets out of puff easily. So she's quite good at sort of hand-eye coordination. So she was good at badminton and things like that, and hockey. But when it came to like personal sports and cycling, she'd rather put her foot down and walk up the hill.
Okay, all right. But your dad, though, had the drive.
Yeah,
and
he
you
was
think
very
that's where
driven.
you got that.
I did my Ancestry DNA and traits test, hoping that something kind of exotic and interesting would come out. And I was like, oh no, just generally probably all working class Midlands, factory, industrial revolution. That's it, really.
But who knows? You see, mine was something like 98% Welsh. But Laura, our genealogist, has uncovered some interesting things, so you never know.
Yeah.
So we ask all our guests to bring something that we can have a look at and something to add to your family history, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you choose to bring?
So I bought a few things so I didn't really know. One was a picture that I drew of my ambitions.
How
Age
old were
11,
you?
I think.
No.
11. I was actually better at drawing than I was at writing. If you see my name there.
Oh, could I
Terrible.
have a look?
But it was quite amusing to see what I kind of envisioned for myself in the future.
Are you actually a psychic?
I bet the words that accompany this was basically like, first of all, I want to be a professional ice skater. That didn't happen, but it was obviously after the era of Torvill and Dean, so very inspired.
Yes, I felt the same. The bolero, we loved that.
And I still love like figure skating to watch it. But I said I wanted to win the Grand National, and that I wanted a black horse called Lightning. I've had a black horse as well, not called Lightning. And that I wanted to be quite good at cycling like my dad. And the funny thing is I drew a picture of a little old lady sat alone in front of a fire with loads of medals and trophies in the background, 2 cats and 2 rabbits. So basically I just want to become a crazy cat lady with lots and lots of accolades. Yeah.
My goodness, it's like a glimpse into the future.
know.
And for those who are listening and not watching, I'm just going to explain. So the first picture is a picture of a young girl ice skating, which we covered, the Torvill and Dean. Then a person riding a black horse, loads of trophies and medals. The granny by the fire is intriguing. I mean, that's something that could definitely happen in the future. Then we've got some cats. Do you have cats?
No, I don't.
No,
I just love cats.
We could get some cats. And then a rabbit.
Yeah.
Amazing. That is really bizarre, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I love that, Victoria. Honestly, keep that safe. It's lovely.
Yeah.
What else do you have in that pile?
So I also bought a newspaper picture of when I raced at Cheltenham. When I finished the race, it came in for me sat on board Pasha de Polder when I finished 2.5 lengths off the winner at Cheltenham Festival.
And you were telling me earlier that you didn't ride a horse
No.
until you were 34.
Yeah, so I had 12.5 months before Cheltenham Festival to prepare for that.
I'm just going to show that as well because
It's
it's
a
amazing.
beautiful picture.
I mean, I'm so fascinated by how driven you are and how you could just completely get yourself a new career.
Yeah.
But I think that's a whole different podcast. I mean, it's there's so much to unpack here. I love that as well.
Yeah, that really, 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 that picture, I couldn't believe it. And the horse, he's just such a beautiful horse. Oh, I love him so much. Pasha de Polder. He won the
Okay.
following 2 years because he's legendary.
Wow.
And then I bought, and this would be difficult to make digital, but it is actually like my Girl Guide badges, which I was keen on getting badges in different things. Very committed.
You are a machine, Pendleton. You are an
I wanted to
absolute
get all
machine.
the badges.
I mean, hey, Dougie's got nothing on you. You've got all the badges on here.
yeah.
That is such a lovely thing to have.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to dive in here
Okay.
because I think there's a lot to unpack. Let's find out where this resilience and drive came from. We have Ancestry's senior genetic genealogist, Laura House, joining us. Laura, welcome. So Laura is going to talk us through what they discovered in your DNA to begin with. Okay, so give us the overview then, Laura.
Well, Victoria, like you said, very, very British. Very British, and that is reflected in your Ancestry DNA results. Now, Ancestry DNA results are divided by parental sides. So you get parent 1 and parent 2, and it took a bit of figuring out, but I established that parent 1 for you is your maternal side and parent 2 for you is your paternal side. And your DNA is almost entirely assigned to English regions, but you do have trace amounts assigned to Wales,
Yes.
Wales, Germanic Europe, and Ireland. Now, it's interesting about these DNA results because what they reflect is the history of intermigration between the UK and other countries around the world where we have had trade links or a lot of movement. And so a lot of people from the British Isles end up with these traces of Germanic Europe because of that history. So it's really lovely to see that history reflected in your DNA results. And then I'm going to show you your ancestral journeys, which very much reflect what you thought about your family history.
Yeah. Yeah, it's strange because I don't know why I had this desire to hope that there was something, anything, but I think I've known I am unfortunately very British fully. And I say unfortunately because I'd quite like to be exotic, but sadly not.
And your ancestral journeys are Kent and South East London and East Midlands. So very much Midlands, exactly like you suspected.
Yeah.
Okay, but there'll be stuff in there, Victoria.
Oh, yeah, just because it's Midlands doesn't mean it's not exciting.
It does not. And Laura is very good at keeping all of this under wraps. But can you tease us with something just to whet our appetite about what might be in Victoria's past? Some secrets, or what have you uncovered? Little tease, please.
Well, we have a story of such extraordinary resilience in your family history that I think you will never look at your Midlands ancestors in the same way again.
So they weren't uneventful.
Not at all.
Oh.
There you go.
We're going to be talking today about your great-great-grandfather, Trevor Bannister. Is that a name that you're familiar with from?
No.
Oh, okay. So the first record we're going to be looking at is the baptism record of Trevor Bannister, who was born in 1863. And I want you to take a look at this baptism record. It's an index of a baptism record, and there's something important missing from the information.
Selina. What surname? No surname.
So there's a mother there,
Yeah.
but there's no father.
Ah, okay.
So Trevor was born to an unmarried mother,
Oh.
which in 1863 would have been very difficult for him. There was a lot of stigma around illegitimacy, and it would have been hard for Selina as well. And so what Selina did was she got married quite quickly after Trevor was born to a man named George Parks.
Oh.
Normally, this would have been good news for the family because Trevor then, in the next census that's taken, in the 1871 census, Trevor has taken George's surname. He's got the surname Parks. To all intents and purposes, Trevor is legitimised in the eyes of society. Nobody ever needs to know that he was born before the marriage to George Parks.
Okay.
So normally this would have been good news for Trevor. But unfortunately, George was not a kind husband.
So she married him in haste, maybe then.
She may have made a hasty decision. She may have had more limited options because of the social stigma. And George was an abusive husband.
Oh.
So
And how do we know that?
There are newspaper articles that describe... So he was taken to court and charged several times with abuse. And Selina, sometimes she left him and then she went back. Because, of course, there were so few options for a woman at that time. And they had several children together as well. So she had very limited options in what she could do. Even with a court order for him to support her, it would have been a very difficult situation. So for Trevor, growing up in this environment, it would have been incredibly hard for him. This man isn't even his own father. And he is having to watch all of this play out.
And did he stick then with George and Selina, or did he make his own way?
He moved out very young. So by the time of the 1881 census, Trevor is 18 years old. He has moved out. He is living on a farm. He's working as a farm servant. And most pertinently, for me at least, is that he has changed his name back to Bannister. He's Trevor Bannister again. He's taken his mother's surname. He's gotten rid of the Parks name. And he has reclaimed his mother's identity.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because that's a bit of that drive you're talking about. You know, he knew his own mind then from being a very young boy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's something beautiful about that, about him taking back his maternal identity, even though that in a way highlighted the circumstances of his birth and may have brought back some of that stigma.
But maybe that was less painful than the alternative. And then went to a farm. Who knew?
I love that.
Maybe he was working with horses.
I know.
Victoria.
Yes, I
it's
know.
all coming round full circle.
I know. I mean, for him, I mean, obviously to take your mother's name, especially back then, was probably... a very unknown, sort of expected thing to do.
Yeah, it's a
I
statement.
appreciate that. It is a statement.
So what became
Trevor.
of him then?
Trevor then gets married to your great-great-grandmother, Hannah Elizabeth Treadwell, and they have a family together.
How
And
many children?
Many children. Many children.
Happy marriage.
Yeah,
then.
happy marriage with many children.
Yes.
There are some complications early in their marriage because one of Hannah's parents dies a few months before the wedding. Another parent dies a few years after the wedding. Her parents have a lot of young children still, one of the youngest of whom is her little sister Bertha. Bertha
Gosh.
Treadwell.
So there was a big gap then between Hannah and her younger siblings.
Yeah, so a lot of families had lots of children over a large time span. And yeah, so you had this big gap where Hannah was an adult and her little sister Bertha was still very young when the parents died. And then if we look at this 1891 census record, so the census is taken every 10 years. It gives you a snapshot of a family's life every 10 years. And in the 1891 census, we see Trevor and Hannah living together, married couple, got their young family, got their many children. But there's also someone else in the household, if you look at the bottom of this document.
Bertha's sister.
Bertha.
Oh,
Yeah.
They've taken in Bertha.
oh, that's lovely. So as well as their own children, they
Yeah.
then sort of adopted
Yeah.
Bertha, the
Yeah.
younger sister.
Yeah, and Bertha is with them on subsequent censuses as an adult as well, which suggests that they did keep her for her
that's
entire
good.
childhood.
So the
Yeah.
brilliant thing then about Trevor is despite all the hardship that he faced and all, well, I mean, you never know what he saw living under the same roof as George and his mum Selina, but he obviously has gone the other way and is a very kind man
Yeah.
and wants to help.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
We like that,
Yeah,
don't we?
welcoming to, yeah.
Go Trevor.
Yes,
Yeah.
Trevor.
Go
Yes.
Trevor.
Yeah, so in the midst of them starting their young family, they
Yeah.
take in Hannah's baby sister.
Oh,
And then did they live a long and happy life?
They did. Unfortunately, the troubles with Selina didn't end there.
Oh.
So Selina continues going back and forth. She leaves George, she comes back. And then she dies under quite tragic circumstances, which would have been very upsetting for Trevor, of course. And so we have a newspaper article about the incident. Would you like to read it?
yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Selina Parks, a married woman, aged 55, who died on Monday afternoon from burns received on Sunday evening.
Burns? What had happened to her, does it say?
The deceased was the wife of the labourer living at Coppice-side. Some smouldering coal, which had dropped on the floor, set fire to her dress. A child raised the alarm and two young men rushed it to the house to put the flames out with their overcoats and a rug and carried the woman, whose clothes were nearly all burnt off, into the street. Medical aid was called, but her injuries were of too severe character. The jury returned a verdict of death from misadventure.
Oh my goodness. So her dress had caught fire.
This was really common at the time because women were wearing really impractical clothes, but they were building fires, they were looking after children, they were multitasking, wearing these long dresses, incredibly flammable. This was a really common situation, but would have been no less shocking for the children.
Oh.
And one of the powerful things about this story is the efforts that were made to save her. The neighbours rushed into the house. You know, it wouldn't have been necessarily a proper thing to come into a lady's house, but they rushed into her house. They tried to save her. The judge commended them. And so for her, her family, for Trevor, who's, you know, building his own family with his wife, Hannah's parents had died recently, his wife's parents had died recently. This would have been a really difficult time for them as a family.
A very
Oh my
tragic time,
gosh.
yeah.
But it's awful for Trevor as well, because obviously, you know, I mean, we don't know, but it sounds like he had a great relationship with his mum, you know, reverted back to her maiden name, then had his own family, but then there's still tragedy there for him. That's an awful way to lose your mum, isn't it? And 55 is no age at all,
no,
even though
absolutely
it was
not.
considered older then. It's no age at all, really, is it?
It's not. It would have been really awful for the whole family. And Trevor, despite all of this hardship, he perseveres. He continues with his marriage to Hannah, building his family. And in the 1911 census, we see them. They've got almost all of their adult children at home with them in 1911. And this is a beautiful document because it is handwritten by Trevor himself.
Oh.
I want you to have a look at this. So he would have received the census form
Yeah.
and he would have filled it out by hand, his wife and his children, all in the household on census
Yes.
night. And they include their occupations, their place of birth, all of their respective ages and marital statuses. Everything is on there.
Oh, interesting.
So how old are the children by this point in 1911?
Victoria, read out the children's age.
So the children's ages 26, 24, 19, 17.
That's my dream, to have everybody still at home as adults.
All the
Lovely.
children at home.
Also, I think it says glass cutter here at the bottom. Trevor,
Trevor's
the son.
occupation.
Trevor's son, Trevor.
Trevor's
is a
son,
glass
Trevor
cutter.
Jr.
And actually, my nan used to work in a glass cutting factory.
Amazing.
No.
Yeah, so we've got lots of cut glass at home.
So, Laura, what happened then to Trevor in his later years? Was it a happy ending?
It was. Trevor turns it around. He makes the best of his life, and we really see this highlighted in Trevor's death announcement at the end of his life that celebrates some of his achievements. And so, to end on a high note, I would like you to read this.
Okay. Ooh. Oh, look at that. Wow. Mr. Trevor Bannister, aged 80 years, who passed away at his Church Street, Tutbury home, was a native of Hanbury and the oldest member of the Orphans Protection Lodge, Manchester Unity. Oh, well, that's a good age, isn't it?
Well, it's a good age, and the fact that he was the oldest member of the Orphans Protection Lodge. So, and that was a charitable institution, wasn't it, Laura?
Yes, so it was a charitable institution that also doubled as a kind of a social organisation as well. So he would have had loads of friends, he would have had a social network. These organisations were a lovely way for people to both give back to the community, and it's a great way to meet people outside of work as well. So he would have had this lovely social life, he was giving back to the community, and there's something poignant about him working with the Orphans Protection Lodge when he himself grew up without a father, when he helped raise his wife's baby sister. This is your great-great-grandfather. He went through so much hardship, came through the other side, and all he did in his life was help people.
Wow.
That's lovely, isn't it?
So when you were talking about those uneventful
Yes.
people in the Midlands,
Yeah, no, working hard.
in fact, maybe some of your resilience and drive has come from your great-great-grandfather, because his story is quite standout, isn't it? You know, for somebody who didn't really have much of a chance as a young boy, you know, without a dad, and in those days very difficult, and really made a life for himself against the odds.
But not only made a life for himself, chose to help others as well in need. And that's really beautiful. That's a really wonderful strength of character, isn't it? And resilience.
So what inspires you about that story?
You know, through all kind of struggle and difficulty, to still come out in a place where you want to help and be part of the community and not just disappear into your own struggles and suffering. I think the idea of somebody wanting to just keep pushing forward and doing the right thing for others is inspiring, isn't it? It really is.
It is. And I can see that that's obviously had an effect on you here in that story. Why do you think that is? Is it because you can recognise some of those traits in yourself? Is it because it's sometimes a bit odd, isn't it, to hear about family members who are so similar to yourself but yet lived years and years ago?
I think, yeah, it is. I mean, obviously, there's everything, all this part of your history and lineage and all the people that have come before you. You are all kind of, you know, you're so connected. And in just hearing that story, I feel, you know, sentimental about Trevor. I really do. I also love the name Trevor, by the way. So, yeah, that's a weird thing.
My grandfather was Trevor too.
I love that.
They're good men.
Yes, that does. He is a good man, and I'm very delighted to hear about him.
And who is the first person that you will call when you leave this recording to tell them about Trevor Bannister?
Oh, my sister. Definitely my sister Nicola. She would love to hear about that. And she's a very empathetic and sensitive and thoughtful, so loves to help people as well. So I think that will resonate with her.
And do you think what we've heard from Laura has raised more questions for you? Would you like to do a little bit more digging now?
I would love to do some more digging. I think it's fascinating. And I think, you know, there's so much to learn about how we kind of have come to be in terms of our traits and personalities. And I find it really intriguing, so I'd love to know more.
Okay, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Our DNA passes from one generation to the other, and here we are sitting with you, Victoria Pendleton, and now we know where some of that drive and ambition and resilience comes from. Now, hearing Trevor Bannister's story makes a lot of sense, because I just would like to mention your new book. Here it is. The Fear Opportunity. Now, this makes a lot more sense now. Just tell our listeners and viewers what this book is about and who it's for.
So it's a book that I wanted to write about reframing our fear in order to make the most of every opportunity that comes our way, and being courageous and being brave, and really trying to change our mindset to achieve like everything we're capable of.
Well, as somebody who stood on the podium with a gold medal around your neck, and then cut to is on the back of a racehorse, having learned to ride at 34, I think you're the perfect person to write this. Thank you so much. Thank you, Laura, for all your hard work as always. Victoria, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thanks,
and hopefully it will inspire you to have a closer look maybe at some more of your family.
Thank you very much.
So if you've been inspired by Victoria's journey and great-great-grandfather Trevor, then why not start a 14-day free trial at ancestry.co.uk and start searching your own family tree. And wherever you're listening or watching this podcast right now, why not press the follow or subscribe button? And to help others find us and maybe embark on their own ancestral adventure, all you need to do is leave a comment or review. And while you're there, why not press play on more amazing family histories of my guests, including comedy star Sally Phillips, who had something in her family tree that Laura and the team had never seen before. Next time on the podcast...
I'm Adrian Lester, and these are my questions and ancestors.
Questions and Ancestors is brought to you by Ancestry. See you next time. Now, Laura, I like to think about this bit of the podcast like, you know, the secret tracks that you would get at the end of an album. And this is the part where you and I, lovely listener or viewer, get to discover answers and myths about my family for the first time. So, last week, we talked about that rumour that we had that we were somehow related to a former mayor of Paris. You put me right on that one. What have you got this week?
Well, when you talked about your great-grandfather Louis Jones dying on the steps of the cinema, we looked into that in more detail, and we found the newspaper article, which didn't mention the cinema. But
no.
I just wondered, is there some way we can find out for sure about the cinema? Because it seemed like such a specific rumour.
And that's always been, you know, when something feels like more than a rumour, it was always fact when my grandfather spoke about it. And of course, it was his dad. So you would expect him to know. And in his mind, it was always on the steps of Llanelli Cinema.
Yes. So I found Louis Jones's death index record on Ancestry, and I used that to get a copy of his full death certificate.
Okay.
And that does indeed name his place of death as near the Regal Cinema. So it was true.
There we are. It was right all along.
It's completely true, the whole thing.
That gives it, I mean, I shouldn't say this. Of course, he was, you know, he died very young. And of course, it's a sad story. But it gives it a tiny bit more glamour that he was on the steps of the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Regal Cinema as well, which is...
The Regal Cinema.
Doesn't get much more glamorous
than that. If you're going to go
at
all at a young age from a heart attack, then why not on the steps of the Regal Cinema? Well, I love that confirmation, Laura. Anything else at all?
Yes, so Louis Jones, we talked about Louis. We also talked about his father, Joseph Henry Jones, who was born in France. And interestingly, Joseph Henry Jones leads us to your only known non-Welsh ancestor.
Are you joking? Is there only one? I mean, I've always joked about this, but literally there is only one non-Welsh ancestor. That's brilliant.
As far as I can see, this is the one and only.
Fantastic.
And it was a long time ago.
Okay. How far ago?
So Joseph Henry Jones is your great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
And then his mother is Maria Braben, your great-great-great-grandmother.
Okay.
And then her father, William Braben, your great-great-great-great-grandfather, was Cornish.
No.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's still Celtic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And what did he do? Do we know?
Yes, he was a master mariner.
Oh, now that sounds important. What does that mean?
He would have been travelling all over the world. He could have been doing it as part of working in trade, or he could have been working as crew on a ship. So he would have seen all sorts of things, which is really interesting because when you think about your family going from Wales to France and having that adventurous spirit, it looks like that was passed down from William Braben.
Oh, I love that. And William Braben, what a name. He sounds like an adventurer, doesn't he?
He was an adventurer, and we have an absolutely beautiful document for him as well that I would love to show you, which is his Master's Certificate of Service. Incredibly old document that has his birth date on it.
Born at Padstow. I love Padstow. On the 21st of September, 1799. My goodness, has been employed in the capacity of master, British Merchant Service in the coasting, I think it says, of foreign trades. Oh, look at his signature. William Braben. Spelt differently to the apples.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and that's his original signature as well. So you get to see his handwriting.
I love that. There's something really lovely about seeing your ancestors' handwriting, isn't there?
It's one of my favourite things.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'd love to show that to Dad. He'd be super interested.
Such a gorgeous old document.
Yeah, very nice. 1799, my gosh.
The old ones are the best.
Yeah, it's hard to even imagine that time existed, isn't it?
Yes.
But of course it did.
Yeah.
Wow.